at this one, but she'll be at the next one. She said she would make the prohibition.
Perfect.
So.
All right, so we will go ahead and call our Monday, March 9th Facilities Committee meeting to order. Thank you, everybody for being here. We will, of course, just turn it right over and go over to Mr. Doherty and Mr. Smith and rock and roll. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, we've been very busy with facilities, as you know, with the $200 million referendum. Just let the board know, you probably saw some things that came out on social media with our PIO, put some together, some things with our safety and security, the things that have been completed on the referendum. So we're able to highlight that. Thank you, Mr. Bohannon and his team. So we're trying to highlight all of those projects that we're doing with the referendum dollars. And so that was sent on Saturday. We'll continue to send things out on our social media platforms of showing when the completion of those projects are. And so just going to start with that. So after that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Souls.
First on the list is the ponds. We're still having those weekly conversations with the folks at Coulter. We're continuing to try. That's all we can say about that. At Somerville Elementary, the structural steel is completed on the roof. They're supposed to start the roofing today. They had some rain over the weekend, so that might have slowed them down on that a little bit. But all the above ceiling mechanical, electrical, plumbing that's going in on the second floor, they're about through with all that on the first floor. The big note for Somerville Elementary is during the week of spring break, there's going to be a power outage at Somerville Elementary campus. That's going to be a campus-wide power outage from 1 o'clock on the Friday afternoon of the 27th until we get permanent power tied into the new wing. They're going to have to set a new transformer. They're going to have to move a utility pole and then run all the conductors for the new wing into that. So hopefully they'll get wrapped up somewhere around Tuesday or Wednesday, the week of spring break. That way we can get the folks from food service back in business where they can move their groceries back to the school. So that's going to happen during the week of spring break. And we're working really closely with school administration over there, food service, and they're announcing it to their entire staff on a weekly basis to let them know what's going to happen that week. That's really important that we get tied into permanent power so we can, as soon as we get dried in, we can start conditioning the space and getting it dried out ready for paint. The Somerville High School gym, the fire and egress modeling analysis that was completed a couple of weeks ago. We are about 30 to 40% done with the construction documents with McMillan Paz & Smith. They estimate their submittal for 100% construction documents on the 1st of June. We're trying to put together a meeting, hopefully next week before we go on spring break, to get the contractor, the design team, and everyone on the same page. We can meet up and just make sure that we're where we need to be. So once we get everything in place, it will flow pretty quickly. And I don't know if everybody's seen it or not, but Mr. Bohannon, he did a great job with a time lapse photograph. And I don't have that photograph in the slides. Is it? Yeah, there it is. So that time lapse shows you from November, December, January, and that one was taken last week. So big one. So that's it's construction in high speed, and when we walk through there, you can see that it's everything is going according to the schedule, and we hope to stay on that schedule.
So we feel pretty confident. Absolutely. Getting it next school year, we'll have that.
Absolutely. Continue on the referendum project, Ashley Ridge High School renovations. In addition, the new band room structural steel is complete on the roof. They were supposed to start their roofing today as well. The above ceiling mechanical, electric, plumbing is in progress. The completion date for the band room is still holding on May 25th. The structural block is complete for the weight room. And they were supposed to start the roofing, the structural steel on that today. And that was supposed to be completed on June 1st. So, and there is also the larger scale roofing project going on at Ashland Ridge too, where we're replacing 100,000 square foot of roof up there. So it's all happening in unison. And that's, Mr. Doherty and Mr. Farrell were out there with me last week, and just to see the progress on that, and it's going very well. The Fort Dorchester High School classroom addition, the permitting is complete. We're doing the numbers are in for the bids, and we're just in a bid verification process now, making sure all the numbers are right before we turn that loose to the contractor. The Niceville Elementary School campus upgrades. We've got a meeting set for Wednesday over at Knightsville to go over the schematic design. The HW, they've already got schematic design completed, and there's probably going to be some tweaking done with that drawings on Wednesday. And hopefully from there, we will be able to jump right into design drawings. That would be awesome. Other CIP construction, Oak Brook Middle School. I think everybody's had a chance to walk through that building. There's one hang up on that. The underground drawing for the fire riser line is being reviewed by LLR. I actually reached out to LLR myself today, and they actually called me back, which is nice to know that somebody answers the phone and returns calls still these days. But they said that we are number 16 in the queue, and they hope to get back to us by the end of the week on that. And Oak Brook Elementary School is not very far behind Oak Brook Middle. The roofing is complete. MEP is still in progress inside the building. We anticipate the permanent power to be turned on this week, and the above ceiling inspection is scheduled for Thursday of this week. So hopefully that all comes to fruition, and we'll be out there on Thursday to witness the overhead inspection. The bus maintenance facility at Oak Brook, that's adjacent to that on the north end of the playground out there by the bus parking area. We have the pre-engineered metal building on site. We have a pre-construction meeting scheduled this week for the town of Somerville, and we will have that started. Hopefully next week we'll start with the groundwork. So from my end of the world, that's all I have to report on. Or if there's any questions about those projects, I'll be happy to answer any question you have.
Back to your update on ponds
Yes, sir.
and still trying.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
It was my understanding that we're rapidly approaching the point where trying isn't necessary. We're going to pass that threshold, that timeline. But at this point, if they gave it to you tomorrow, does it really matter in terms of our timeline?
If they gave it to us tomorrow, we would start turn it over to Hood tomorrow. And we would get done what we can get done. So there is a progression schedule that we have kind of worked out with Hood. I mean, if we could get 15 or 20 of the classrooms done before next school year, we're going to have 15 or 20 classrooms done before next school year. Doesn't mean we can magically redistrict between now and then. That's going to be the tough part. It might be, I don't want to speak for anybody, but it may be possible that we could have students there. I mean, there's always a possibility, but I don't. But hopefully when we get it turned over, we will be able to cut the ribbon on a new school within 12 to 15 months of that day.
Okay.
Yeah, it's we're on the 15-month threshold right now. So could we get 280 students in there the fall of 27? Very possibly. Could we get it's not a some all or none deal. We're gonna we're gonna do what we can do and go from there.
You know, the big thing is you're looking at that phase 10. I mean, they've already cleared that. They've put the dirt there. They're ready to pour pads, ready to do some things with those townhomes. Coulter is. So we just need that portion. And I think what Tony's talking about, that 260, there are 260 students in the ponds. And so you really would just take that group and do a soft opening that way. And that group could go there. And then the following year, you'd have to redistrict and some of those students from Beach Hill and then also Newington, because those are our 3 highest capacity schools. And so that would be the second phase. And so if you had to do a soft opening, that would be our soft opening, just with those students in the ponds, and then bring the rest of those kids in following. So good question.
Semper Gumby.
Yeah.
Always flexible, trying to.
Always,
Yes, yeah.
always planning for the worst, praying for the best.
Gumby, is that what you said?
Gumby, yeah.
But I think, and Jim, to your point, the downside is even if they were to quote unquote turn it over to us and say tomorrow, there's still some, I don't want to say loopholes, but there's still some hurdles.
Yeah.
Legally, and the county still has to do all this work, so it's not quite an immediate deal. So.
Good.
Just brief update on some of the other projects we have going on. The photo up here, as you can see, is the first of our 2 press boxes is installed and complete. Actually, our in-house electricians were running trenching conduit today, so they'll have power hooked up tomorrow. But Fort Dorchester High School has their softball press box installed, so it's done.
And the one thing to report on this is when you look at all of our 3 high schools that have softball fields, this one did not have a press box, and they did not have a PA system out there. So they're getting a PA system. They're going to have the press box. They had new scoreboards put out there this year earlier. So, you know, trying to make sure that equity and access is done for all 3 high schools. And so thanks to Jeff and his team. And so that press box, when that's installed, and then we finally get the one at Somerville that we had some different ideas on and had to switch gears. And so we're excited to get these projects completed. So
Somerville, the pad has already been poured. It was supposed to ship to us on the 6th. They had some delays. They actually have to get approved by the state. The LLR has to actually approve them once they complete them. So that's in progress. I talked to the manufacturer, the vendor on Friday. He's hopeful that it'll be shipped out early this week, and it's probably a 1-day installation. So expected to have it done, I'm saying by the end of March, but maybe this week or next week we'll have it installed. But like I said, the pad's already poured, so it's just literally getting out there and hooking it up. That one will be a lot easier because Forts, they had to basically disassemble the bleachers and make it into one set and do a lot of work there. This one, these bleachers are newer, so it'll just pull right up very easily. Just wanted to also bring up a couple things. This is the current state of the Ashley Ridge track. So just to make everybody aware that we are going to be seeking to go out for a bid at some point in the near future to get that track repaired. It won't be repaired though. It's going to end up being like what we had to do at Fort Dorchester a couple of years ago. That subsurface is original to the school. So I think that was 2006, 2008, somewhere in that range. Your typical lifespan of an asphalt subsurface is 20 years. We're right at that mark. So it's going to have to be, we're going to have to make a decision once we get the bids. If we're going to try to do something like a post-tension concrete base, which is going to give you 50 or more years, or if we're going to go back with an asphalt base. Obviously, there's going to be a cost difference. It just depends on, we're going to have to weigh those options and see what we can afford. There's options too, as far as the surface. We can do like a sandwich type surface, which is what we have now, or, you know, the top of the line that's going to last the longest is more like a pour polyurethane floor, surface. But obviously, I'd rather have a stronger sub base than I would the top layer, because that's going to last a lot longer. And you're going to still have to do some maintenance every 7 to 10 years as far as painting lines and things like that. So just wanted to make sure the board was aware that we are going to be definitely looking at that in the future and identifying funding sources to try to take care of that, because currently they can't have a meet there.
They can't have a meet there. And that's one of our largest high schools. They can't have any meets. That was it.
Oh,
That was
okay. Not up here, but also just a little update on the tennis courts that we're looking at doing Somerville's tennis courts at Austin Middle School. The site survey will be completed by Wednesday. ADC is doing the design. They're waiting for that. Once they get that, they'll have the design rolling and hoping to have the design by the end of March, first week of April, at least a schematic design, so we can kind of get that to the stakeholders, make sure it's approved and get moving forward on that. I know the town of Somerville is definitely anxious to see our schematic design and all. They've reached out already, and I guess people are curious why we're doing surveying. So we let them know what we're doing and be getting all that to them in due process once we get the actual design.
And then one thing to make the board aware, we've got contracts to use those fields out there at Austin Middle School all the way through June 30th. And so we'll let those people know after June 30th, that little field there, which is a softball field, will not be available. They'll be doing some construction there.
Yeah.
And so we'll let all those people know. I did a presentation for the Rotary and talked about the referendum. And that was one of the questions when I went through about other projects. We talked about the tennis courts, and a gentleman has a team that's practicing out there, and he knows that his contract's only good to the 30th, and we'll honor that. But we need to make sure we communicate with those people, those stakeholders that do use those fields. And so.
And we won't be losing the fields completely. We'll lose probably the softball field, but we're probably going to still have pretty much the baseball field intact, we're expecting.
Yeah.
And so obviously, once we get the final design, we'll know for sure. But the expectation is that we'll just be paused on usage until we get everything constructed, and then obviously turn it back over for public use. They so see fit. We made a mistake I made a mistake last time in the board. We brought to the board approval for Fort Dorchester's wood floor in their gym. And I forgot that we actually had a contract that got renewed and there was another vendor added. So I was able to reach out to them and get them to quote it. And we actually ended up saving $100,000 to go with a different vendor. So it's all been
Not a
done.
bad mistake, Jeff. You're okay.
It's good to make a mistake that way. That's a good mistake. So it was a good miss on my part, but still scheduled to start the end of the month and expecting to be done before school gets out. And like I said, all the folks at the school were much more in favor of the doing it during school than to do it during the summer when they have a big need for that gym for volleyball and summer sports. So that'll get rocking next couple of weeks. And there's some other stuff that it's not the pretty fancy stuff, but just things that have to happen that we're still plugging away at. Our units for Newington and Flourtown have arrived. Curbs, which is what we mount to the roof with, they will be arriving this week. So we're scheduled at the end of next week to install those 2 units. And the Windsor Hill Playground, that has begun and it should finish up by the end of the month. We have old chiller pipe at Somerville High School that's been there since they did the renovation in '97. For some reason, I guess they didn't realize you're supposed to treat the chiller water, and otherwise it gets rusty. And so we're having pinholes throughout the entire system. So it's time to replace, and we're going to be doing that over spring break. The Gregg Middle School courtyard project is going to be broken into 2 phases. We're going to do probably the interior stuff that's on the interior breezeway of Gregg. That way we won't interfere with students, and get that done over spring break, as well as probably the basketball court portion. And then summertime on the turf. We just don't have enough time in a week to do all the turf that has to be done. And they really don't have anywhere else they can move the kids to for that time. So we're going to phase it out and have it done by probably by the end of June. The Austin Middle School restroom renovation, we're going to take a similar approach, split it into 2 phases. Staff restrooms over spring break, group restrooms over summertime. Another project is to keep on the radar, district office exterior walls. So this building it's beautiful, it's great, but for the folks that actually live here and work here, there's a lot of moisture issues and leaks on windows and around frames. And so part of that was just that it didn't get done when we did the original scope of work, and it's time to try to address that. So we actually had a design done. Not sure how we're going to fund it yet, but we went ahead and got the design done. So we'll be looking to determine funding for that in the future, probably in our next 3-year CIP program. And just some other things to keep in mind. So thanks to procurement, our paving contract is now on the street, and we definitely need that because that's going to tie into Ashley Ridge High School's renovation, because we have to pave their stacking loop by the athletics, and we have to also do Fort Dorchester High School's parking lot coming up next year as well, and a multitude of other projects we have to do with paving. So it'll be good to get that in place. Let's see, the Gregg Roofing project's is closing this month, and it'll be coming to you all, I think, the first meeting in April for approval. But that'll be pretty much 5 of the buildings out there being re-roofed and all of the exterior walls. So that'll be a pretty extensive project at Gregg. The Newington ceiling grid and lighting, that's going to go out this week, we're in hopes of, and that's going to be the bane of my existence this summer. It's going to be terrible. It's going to be a nightmare, but it's going to be very well needed. We did decide we're phasing it, so we're doing basically 2/5 of the building this summer, the last 3/5 next summer, just to keep it manageable, because 7 weeks is not a lot of time when you're ripping the entire ceiling out, all the duct work, abating the entire ceiling, abating the entire wall. So it's a lot involved in that project. Probably the one I'm looking least forward to this summer, say, just from a standpoint of management. Other than that, a lot of moves. I've met with our moving vendors, and we're just getting geared up and getting prepared for everything that's coming. I mean, we have to move so many things this summer. It's going to be quite a challenge, but I think we've got some pretty good dates in place that we have to meet, and it's going to be very tight with all the stuff we have to do.
And with the moves, we're talking about the teachers from over at Span, and we're talking about the adult ed coming from the trailers over to Span. Those are be our big ones right there. We're not so much worried about technology, the other ones getting them in Span, but the big ones are getting those students out of this, or those people out of the trailers, and then moving teachers in those trailers so they know which room's going to be theirs.
Clearing space Span,
Yeah.
and moving adult ed over, moving folks from Gregg Middle School over, moving, then you have to move folks that are, move the students that are in the building at Knightsville into the trailers. But first you have to, retrofit them, make sure they're all proper for students, and do a little bit of demo, a little bit of work there. So then make that move happen. And so it's going to be a lot of, not to mention we have to have somebody move Newington out. So 2/5 of that building has to get completely moved out of the building into the cafeteria. So that's going to be a long move into their cafeteria, stage everything for the summer. Beach Hill is going to have everything moved out because we're doing their grid. So it's going to be a fun summer.
Busy summer.
Fun summer. And then also we're going to try to do some painting at William Reeves, full school painting, HVAC this summer. We're also going to be doing Beach Hill ceiling grid lighting, which I mentioned a few minutes ago. That's it. Mild summer.
There's something else that's on the agenda for board meeting tonight.
Oh, sorry. Yes, we have to, we're going to be bringing to the board the approval for the playground at Oak Brook Elementary School. So it's going to be over that threshold, but we're using one of our existing vendors that we have with our cooperative contract with Charleston County. And this is in connection with the playground's due for replacement. It's one of our oldest. But B, there's a lot of things we have to do because of the new facilities that we've built there, the new buildings and the new bus shed. So we're having to demo several pieces of equipment and remove. And so we're not going to move a 30-year-old piece of equipment and try to salvage it. It's time to replace it. So that'll be coming up for approval today as well. And I think that's funded we're funding that out of 8%. Okay, 8% savings that we had for Oak Brook Elementary.
Is that the one, we've got that in our packet, I think.
It is.
Yes.
Yes.
Right, yeah. Mega Tower.
The mega tower, yes, the mega tower.
Mega Tower.
Yes.
It's fun.
Do you want to bring that to the board this evening when?
Yes.
So just for the committee's sake, so it is on our agenda, is there any opposition to that being brought to the board?
I was going to ask a question during finance, just in terms of how does this compare to others that we've done in terms of cost and scope? You just described some of the scope challenges and whatnot, but anything outside of the normal.
It's not, I would say it's right in line. I mean, we're under contracted pricing, so we get a certain percentage off of list for everything we buy. As far in terms of the equipment, it's pretty much the standard stuff we would use in any school forward. So nothing out of the ordinary. The only difference with this is that we're having to, normally we'll do, a certain few pieces here and there. This is more of a full replacement of most of their stuff, just due to where the new building landed. What's the new building going to be used for? You don't want fifth grade playing in the area where it needs to be designated for kindergarten, because you don't want to send them halfway across the campus to go to recess. So just because of the nature of it, it's well in line with what we normally been doing.
All good? Love it. So we will plan to bring that to the board this evening.
Sir.
Perfect. I'm glad to see we have no facilities projects going on.
Low time.
Thinking about getting a second job. Don't pass the time. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's crazy to think we're already got to ramp up for the summer, just like that.
Yeah.
Just like that. Good. I think that's all we had on our agenda for this afternoon. Did anybody else have anything? Any questions?
How are the school tours going? Unfortunately, I've not been able to attend a couple of them. I did last year and they were enlightening and fun and
Yeah, I would say same. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely value. We've got, I think some more, probably the last of them this week. This week and the next week should be getting pretty close. But, yeah, I would say they're all, again, valuable to see kind of what's going on. A lot of the stuff that we're talking about right now, obviously, we're seeing it firsthand, which is good. So,
Quite a lot of things out there. I'd say a lot of wants. I wouldn't say there's been a lot of needs, but there have been a lot of wants and things that would make their lives easier that we've seen. I would say the biggest thing we've seen, just as a overall picture, is definitely a need for furniture. You know, in a lot of places we go through some schools and they're very mixed matched, very hodgepodge, and that's one of the biggest things I've seen as far as school needs. I think one of the things that might have struck out the most to some of the board members that were there were when we've done some of these lighting projects at schools and we've changed them to LED. It's really a game changer for how the school appears and just overall appearance of the schools. It's really big in some of the schools we've done.
Shows you what we need to do with paint too.
Shows you everything.
It shows everything, yeah.
yeah, we've definitely identified some lighting projects and then the furniture, because we had talked about, I mean, you gotta think about it. A classroom furniture is like 30 grand easy. And so you're talking, hundreds of classrooms across the district. It's a lot. So we had talked, Jeff and I just talked a little bit about kind of formulating more of a definitive plan for actual furniture replacements and refurbishments over the next several years. Because it is much needed.
We had put some money in the 8% this year,
Yeah.
so we're hoping to continue that every year, put them on a rotation so we could replace those and hit the worst ones first.
Yeah, I'll give you an example, just like at Somerville High School, they got a hodgepodge of desks. It's over $1 million just to every classroom. So trying to come up, like you said, a plan of, how do we do that rotation and getting that in there? Because that seems to be the last thing we kind of do is buy furniture. Always try to take care of the envelope of the building first. And that's something that always kind of gets stuck behind.
I mean, yeah, perfect example. So with that money that we have for 8%, we're doing Austin Middle School this summer. And it's not anything extravagant. We're literally just doing student desks, student chairs, new teacher desk, new teacher chair, and a few bookshelves, like maybe 20 bookshelves, and that's over $400,000. So the money doesn't go really far. And so when you start taking to that scale to a school like Somerville High School, I mean, $1 million is going to probably be like 1.5, 1.3, 1.5, just to do the basics. So you're not even going in there touching like admin suites or any of their, not doing anything with that. We're just doing literally what we can do to help students and teachers.
And the big thing is looking at desks. Some of those desks came one piece. And what happens with one piece desks, they break pretty easily. So when he's talking about desks and then chairs, it's a lot easier to replace a chair than you don't have to replace the whole desk. So we're trying to get a little bit smarter when we're buying furniture like that. So because those one pieces, once they break, they're done. But if I break a desk, I still have the chair or vice versa with those. So, and it gives you a little more flexibility how teachers set up the rooms and groups and those things. So.
And we're also looking at trying to buy a more robust desk that's going to last longer, not like something that's going to last us 2 or 3 years or 5 years, because we obviously we don't know how long it'll be before we can replace them again. So if we're going to do it, get something that's going to be not necessarily fancy, but sturdy. So we've done that as well.
I think the plan is at Knightsville, when we're redoing that whole building, we're putting new desks and furniture in there, correct?
Yeah, because we're going to touch 60 or 70% of that campus, 70% of that campus probably. Same thing we're going to do Somerville Elementary.
Yeah, but I will tell you, having been on those facility visits for a number of years, it is night and day. And this is nothing against predecessors. I think it's just operational efficiencies over time that we've started to figure out as a district. And so now we're kind of seeing the fruits of that. And so to me, again, it's night and day. When I first started these things, before Tony was at Rick, I guess. Doing Rick, we started on Rick.
Also, we didn't have money.
We didn't have a lot of money in the 8%. We
was
did
very
not.
good.
We did not.
So that's been the game changer.
both of those points are the catalyst for my question. one of the things we have not done a great job of in past, it's not a criticism anyway. I know that you guys were trying to make money appear out of nowhere. It was that we didn't have a real long-range plan for capital spending and a sustainable source of that funding to take care of things that are going to come up. Yes, desks break. This isn't just a matter of let's refresh the style of desks. But, when the desks break in half, it's a whole unit, you got to replace it. That gets expensive. And are we getting better at trying to identify those things, everything that comes out of this list from the walks this year, the needs are the needs. Okay. The wants are tomorrow's needs probably, because you're looking at them going, yeah, we probably want to address that at some point. And are we starting to record those things and project out long-term so we can try and provide sustainability and know what funding we need, not just today, but 5 years down the road.
Yeah, and I think in the past, what the referendums were really used for buildings in the past. And so I think now with 8% dollars, and then we had that facility study, I believe was done in 2020. We've used that to kind of look at, okay, we've got some 8% money extra here. Can we tackle that? Now we got some TIF dollars like you're talking about. We're able to tackle that. So we're using 3 buckets of money, where before I think, we only had the 1 bucket, the referendum, and it was done for just buildings. And so I think in the past, I think that's what happened. Now we're seeing that, okay, now we can start tackling some of the low level fruit that, like you had mentioned as well. So I think it's been a tribute to the team and the funding we've gotten a little bit more. So that's been nice.
All right, good stuff. Any other questions? Everybody good? If not, we'll give everybody some time back. We have a 5 o'clock finance meeting right here, same room. So we'll see everybody then.
Great.
Thank you. Thank you.
Awesome.